So it's going to be Tony Bellew in one corner, and in the other, it's going to be the undisputed cruiserweight champion of the world, Oleksandr Uysk, who is going to be the heavy favourite. But this time I feel him being a favourite rather than Bellew's fight with Hay is much more based in substance and reality than notions of what was and looking good and beach muscles and just knockout highlight reels. Uysk here, as Bellew has almost mentioned himself, rather interestingly, this guy is very much a stylistic nightmare, fights from the southpaw stance, high volume, tricky, nice footwork, younger, fresher. You know, this guy's up against it. The opinionated Scouser, whose last fight is going to be this one. He really is the rightful underdog, but he says he's going to prove us wrong again. Fair play to him. He has the perfect mindset, Bellew of a fighter. He says he's going to find a way. Where there's a will, there is a way, as the old saying goes. And he's shown us recently that he's more clever than previously given credit for. He's a bit of a crafty one. He can do certain things. The only problem here is to envision a Bellew victory, I really find myself squinting. Now, I think partly with Bellew looking better recently, I think it's had something to do with the quality of his opponents. Now, he did well to beat Makabu. He got off the deck, he countered him, and then he took him out. But then Makabu was the champion off a vacated belt, and then what has he done since then? I don't think he's done anything. So how good was Makabu? That's the question you have to ask yourself. And then David Hay, even though I was enough of an idiot to put money on for Hay to win in the first 3 rounds, I'll hold up my hands. That was on the understanding that Hay was at least going to be 70% his old self. I think we maybe got 50% David Hay in the first fight, and in the second one, we got 30%. So while Bellew was looking neater and looking good and his style was exposing Hayes, it was very much dependent on a deteriorated condition and even an injured fighter. So again, Bellew again is probably a little bit more crafty. He does have neat footwork. He does certain things well, and you can see his brain ticking up there. He thinks his way through. But this was against, I don't know how good were these opponents. This guy, Uysk, is in his prime. He is fresh. He is tricky. He can fight for 12 rounds at a high pace. And it's really the trickiness and the work rate that I think that will become Bellew's undoing. Now, when Bellew usually gets in his groove and makes something happen and manages to create an opportunity and end up hurting somebody, it's usually off a counter from the left hook. He doesn't mind being pressed. He likes people coming onto him, and then he usually shoots a left hook. Now, of course, that's how he hurt Makabu, but Makabu didn't know what to do and then became a sitting duck. And David Hay was kind of a sitting duck from the first bell. But generally before that as well, in his entrance to the cruiserweight division, Bellew was getting rid of people by them coming onto him and looking for that counter hook. I find it hard to see Uysk giving him that opportunity. Now, Gassiev, of course, was more basic than Bellew. His footwork, he was stuck in the mud. But throughout that whole fight, Uysk was very disciplined, stayed on the outside and peppered him with that right jab, followed up when he needed to, and then back to basics. It's hard to see Uysk giving Bellew the opportunity to land that left hook counter, which would presumably then force Bellew into an unnatural role and have to become a front foot attacker. And that's really not his forte. Another thing, sometimes Bellew was blowing against Hay, and they weren't particularly fought at the highest work rate. Now, Uysk can throw 90 to 100 punches around and he's on you. He is going to be making Bellew work. So I think what we're going to see here, while I love Bellew's belief in himself, and he probably is technically a bit better than we've been thinking, I think he's going to start to melt early. He's thinking mid to late rounds KO for his plan. But what happens when you've got a guy who's making you work, hitting you, swelling up those cheekbones? It's going to make life very hard. And then he doesn't give you the opportunity either for a response. This is what I see with this fight. If Uysk has got heavyweight aspirations after this, you would have thought a Tony Bellew is well within his capabilities. Underrating him or not, we're talking about a guy who's arguably the best cruiserweight since Evander Holyfield, who was a great heavyweight as well. So I'm envisioning a heavy points decision for Uysk, or a stoppage later on through an accumulation of facial damage. I think Bellew's going to find it hard to keep up with him, and I think he's going to find it difficult to find any opportunities. Those opportunities that Uysk won't be giving him from the outside. He'll be moving. There might be some things Bellew can do. I mean, he said how Uysk is like a great amateur who he's looking to kind of rough up and old man him in a way. This is kind of what he said on Sky Sports. But when you've already beaten quite a few contenders like Breedis and Gassiev and Hook as well, and you did it easily, that kind of slight fragile looking amateur, I'm not really getting that vibe with Uysk. He looks like a rugged individual. I'm not sure whether he's been hurt before in the amateurs, but he's had a lot of amateur fights, right? It's hard to see. This isn't an Audley Harrison guy we're looking at who's going to crack when a good punch is landed. He's a rugged customer who just happens to be a slick, very fit boxer as well. So all the credit in the world to Tony Bellew for taking this fight. If he loses easily, no contest, it's still the best fight to have because it's all about legacy. It's not about taking an easy little paycheck. Let's just go for it. And that's what Bellew's doing. Fair play to him. If he won, wow, boy, that would shut everybody up. But this time, I think with the Hay fight, it was people were going off the reputation of Hay, and the reality, of course, was much lower, which Bellew knew. This time, the reputation is a bit lower with Uysk than perhaps what we thought Hay was going to do, being explosive at heavyweight. But in terms of the substance and where Uysk is actually at, it's much higher this time. Tricky guy, high work rate. I think he's going to be peppering Bellew so much. I think it's going to be very difficult for the Scouser, and with a swollen face and a kind of a heavy heart, I think he's going to bow out, but fair play for him for giving it a go. That's what boxing's about.